All right, in this video, I'm going to go over the test review for your rational numbers test tomorrow. So the first problems, you can, remember, check everything with an Inspire. You'll be allowed to use it on the test, but I'm going to do everything by hand just to make sure that we can do it that way. So the first thing that I need to do between these two, because I am adding and subtracting, is to find a common denominator. So the common denominator between these is going to be 18. Now, how did I make a 9 into an 18? Times 2. So I have to do that to the top as well. A 6 becomes an 18 by times 3. So I have to do that at the top as well. Then I add the tops, the numerators of the fractions, 17 over 18, and 9 minus 2 is 7. So 7 and 17/18 is your first example, except that I just added instead of subtracted. Let's go back and redo. All right, so on here, I can't take 15 away from 2. There's not enough, so I need to borrow. This is going to be an 8, which means I now have 18 pieces to add to my 2, which gives me a 20 on top. So 20 minus 15 is 5 out of 18, and 8 minus 2 is 6. So I have 6 and 5/18. Sorry about that. On this one, you actually have to add the opposite, so this becomes add the opposite. And what that's showing you is that these two are actually just being added together. So my common denominator here is going to be 24. So I have 1 and 24, and I have 3 and 24. So how did I make a 6 into a 24? By multiplying by 4. So the top is 20. How did I make an 8 into a 24? Multiplying by 3. So the top is 21. So the tops give me 41 over 24, and the whole numbers is 4. 24 goes into 41 one time, which makes this now a 5. And 41 minus 24, that's 17 left over. Always remember to check your fractional part and see if it can be simplified. Neither of these could, so we'll just move on. Susan Washer bought 7 1/4 dozen eggs. A dozen eggs cost $1.24. How much change did she receive from a $20 bill? So this is definitely a multiple step problem. First, I need this in decimal form since everything else is in decimal form and money deals with decimals anyways. Now, a dozen eggs is 7.25. I'm sorry. She bought 7.25, so 7 1/4 dozen eggs, and each of them cost $1.24. So the first part that we need to do is 7.25 times 1.24. Now, if you're doing this by hand, it gets actually very lengthy, but we are letting you use a calculator. So I'm just going to tell you the answer on this part. You should get $8.99. We also have a $20 bill. We want our change. So we should be subtracting our total from the amount we gave the cashier. When you borrow, this becomes a 10, a 9, a 9, and this goes down by 1. 10 minus 9 is 1, 9 minus 9 is 0, 9 minus 8 is 1, 1 minus nothing is 1. So our change is $11.01. On the next one, remember that you can also check these in your calculator using that such that bar, but we should also know how to do them by hand. So this is 2x divided by 3. My first step is going to be to multiply by 3. That gives me that 2x is negative 54, I believe. Yes. And then I need to divide by 2 to get rid of that multiplication, which gives me x. Now a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 54 divided by 2 is 27. Please check all of these answers in your calculator to ensure that you've done them correctly. On this one, we have a number equals m minus another number. So to get rid of minus, I add. And then m equals whatever this is. Now, you have some negatives and you have some positives. You actually have more negatives than positives, so your answer is going to be negative. But you do need to find the difference between these. So put the big one on top and the small one on bottom, and then we're going to subtract them. We don't have to worry about the negative because I've already put it over there to remind myself that it's in my answer. The common denominator here is 24, so I multiply the top one by 3 and the bottom one by 4. Now, I can't subtract without borrowing, so I'm going to add 24 to this 9. 24 and 9 gives me 33. So I've got 2 minus 2, so there's 0 holes left. But 33 minus 20 gives me 13 out of 24. So my answer is negative 13 24ths. The next one says determine the value of x if the scalene, remember scalene means 0 sides congruent, has the perimeter of 10 2/3. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add up all my sides, because that's how you find perimeter. And then they told us that the perimeter was 10 2/3. So I've got 2x, 3x, and 2x. That makes 4 and 3 is 7x. 1, negative 5, that's negative 4, plus 3, that is negative 1. I need to add 1 to both sides. That gives me 7x equals 11 2/3. From there, I need to divide by 7. So x is going to equal whatever 11 2/3 divided by 7 is. Remember that when you divide involving fractions, you have to have them proper. So 11 times 3 is 33, plus 2 is 35. And then we're going to be dividing that 7 over 1. Keep the first one, change the sign to multiplication, and flip the second one. Don't forget that your answers are going to get very large unless you simplify before you actually do your multiplication. I see that both of those are divisible by 7, which gives me a 5 up here and a 1 down here. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 3 times 1 is 3. 3 goes into 5 one time, with 2 left over. So my answer in this case is x equals 1 2/3. All right, so on this problem, we are actually comparing two companies. We have a one-day rental at Nifty Car Rental costs $30 plus 60 cents per mile. One-day rental at Shazam Car Rental costs $55 but only charges 35 cents per mile. So when we're filling out our chart, we actually have two columns for this. So it's for 0 miles, it's $30 and $55. Now for 20 miles, you're going to have to multiply 20 times 60 cents to figure out how much your mileage charge is. That's going to give you $12, so 12 plus your 30 is 42. Down here, you would be doing 35 cents a mile times 20, and 35 cents a mile would be $7. So $7 plus your 55 gives you 62. So you would continue filling in your chart in this manner. And then we're going to answer the questions that follow. So when is it cheaper to rent from Nifty Car Rental? When is it cheaper to rent from Shazam? Well, when we look at 100, that is where it exactly equal. So when is it cheaper to rent from Nifty? Well, that's going to be under 100 miles. When is it cheaper to rent from Shazam? Over 100 miles. Exactly at 100 miles, it doesn't matter who you go with. So the next part asks us to actually come up with an equation. So Nifty Car Rental, your total cost is your $30 plus 60 cents per mile. Shazam is going to be your total cost is $55 plus 35 cents per mile. If the almonds drive 225 miles, which company would be a better deal? So when we look at this, if we actually plug it in, for Nifty, it would be $30 plus 60 cents per mile. So that's going to be $135 for mileage when I plug in 225. And that's going to give me a total cost of $165. For Shazam, it's going to be $55 plus 35 cents a mile. So when you plug in 225, you should get, sorry, give me just 1 second. So you should get 55 plus 78.75, which overall gives you 133.75. So which one's cheaper? Shazam. And when you look at that, that should make sense because we said which company is cheaper over 100 miles? Well, 225 is certainly over 100, and we said over 100 miles, Shazam is cheaper. If the almonds only have $80 to spend, which company would be a better deal? Well, that depends on how many miles you can get for $80. So for Nifty, $80, that's your total cost, would have to be equal to 30 plus your cents per mile. So we're going to subtract 30 from both sides to get 50 equals to 0.6. So you actually have to divide both sides by 0.6 here to figure out your total miles that you could drive. So this would be 88 1/3 miles. We need to do the same thing with Shazam. 80 is going to be equal to 55 plus 35 cents per mile. I'm going to subtract 55 from both sides. That's going to give me 25 equals 0.35 M. And then I need to divide both sides by 35 cents to figure out how many miles I can drive. So the mileage for this one turns out as 71 3/7. So which one would be a better deal? Nifty, because you can drive more miles. Number 11. Use the equations and the tables to create a graph that represents the cost for both companies. We're going to create Nifty's line in blue and Shazam's line in red. So for Nifty's line, we started at $0. Sorry, this is 0, 0. So this is your x-axis, and this is your y up there. So we started out and it was $30. So since this is 50, I think this is 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. So we are counting by fives. And then I just need to plot my points. So that was going to be 20 and 42, 5, 10, 15, 20. Oh, this is not the same scale. This is 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So we're counting by tens down there. So 20 would be right here. And then this would be about 42 is in there. And then I've got 40 and 54. 40 would be 40 and 54, somewhere right around there. And again, use a straight edge to help you out with this. And so then I knew I had 90, 90, so that should be pretty easy to come up with. So 90 is right here. 90 is 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, 75, 80, 85, 90. The only reason I use that one is because it's a little bit nicer of a point. So when I'm estimating my other stuff, it'll help me come out a little bit cleaner on that. So the next one should be 60 and 66. So 60 and 66 should probably be somewhere right in there. And then 80 and 78, probably right about there. Oops, a little bit low on that. Right about there. So anyhow, you can kind of get the pattern, and you, on your own, can go ahead and fill out the remainder of that. If you use a straight edge, it makes it a little bit easier, but definitely make sure you at least plot what's in your chart. Now, Shazam should be in blue. So at 0, we were at 55. At 20, we were at 62. And then at 40, we were at 64. 55, 60, 65. Oh, sorry, that's 69. That's why it looked confusing. Pardon me. And then 60 is 76. And then we're also going to be at that 90, which puts the 80 at, right, 83. So somewhere in there. So this, again, should make a straight line. Yours will probably be a little bit neater than mine, because yours is on the paper with the pencil. At what number of miles will the two companies cost the same? Circle the point on the graph that verifies that. That's this point right here. I know it looks off, but that's because the graph is off. So this point right here at this 90, 90, that's where they intersect. So that's where they cost the same. So this shows you that Shazam is cheaper up until 90. Or sorry, it's more expensive because the line's higher up. And then after that 90 point, it's below. So it's cheaper. 14. Every year, Caesar's mother marks his height on a door frame. When he was 9 years old, he was 52.5 inches tall. During the next 5 years, his height increased by 2 1/4 to 1 3/4, 3 1/2, and 2 3/4 inches, respectively. How tall was he when he was 14 years old? So 9 plus 5 is 14. So what this is basically saying is that we started at 52.5, and then we gained 2 1/4. We gained 1 3/4, we gained 3 1/2, and 2 3/4. So if we total all this up, that's going to be how tall he was at 14. So first of all, I need to make all of these common denominators. They should all be with fourths. So that's 2/4. That's already a fourth, already a fourth. This is 2/4. I'm going to add all the whole numbers. 52, that makes 54, 55, 58, 59, 60. And then I'm going to add all the numerators of the fraction. So 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we have 11 fourths. 4 goes into 11 2 times. So 4 times 2 is 8. That means we have 3 left over. So 62 and 3/4 inches. This is actually the same as 5 feet. 4 3/4 inches if you felt like converting. But either answer would be acceptable. 15. Tire Discounters is selling a set of 4 tires for $300. Also, each customer who buys a set of tires will receive a free detailing, which is normally $100. Which equation can be used to find M, the income brought in from selling 100 tires at this rate? So each person is going to be buying 300 tires. So it's 300 per person. Sorry, I had to stop for a second and reread my problem. So it says we're actually looking on the income brought in from selling 100 tires, not 100 people. So each tire set is $300, but there are 4 tires. So if we divide that, that's going to tell us how much it is for 1 tire. Now, what they're talking about, this free detailing, it's free. So they're not getting any money for that. So it's actually extra information. So then we need to take this rate per tire and multiply it by the tires we are buying. So this would be the most appropriate answer. Bill is renting an auger to install a fence post. There's a $10 flat fee and a charge of $2.50 per hour. Using the equation 2.5h plus 10 equals big T, where h is the number of hours the auger is rented and big T is the total rental cost, he has calculated the total rental cost for various amounts of time. If Bill's calculations are correct, which of the following tables has he prepared? So first of all, when we just start looking at our answer choices, if we rent it for 2 hours, that's going to be 2.5 times 2, which is 5, plus 10, which is 15. So that's correct. So I'm going to look at my first one, and all of those are correct. The next ones have 20 and 1750, so that's going to help me get rid of a couple of options. So 4 times 2, 2.5. So 2.5 times 4, that's going to give me 10 plus my $10. So it's 20. So this one's right, which means this one is gone. And so is this one. And you know what? I did not read my chart carefully enough, so watch out. This one actually says 3 hours. So for 4 hours it says 20 here, and it says 20 here, and for 4 hours it says 20 here. So that also did not help me figure out anything. So now I need to look at, let's say, the 6 hours. If I look at the 6 hours, 2.5 times 6 plus 10. 2.5 times 6, that's going to be $15 plus 10, that's 25. So this one is incorrect. 6 hours should be 25. This one is incorrect. We don't have 6 hours over on these two options, so we either need to check, I would not check 3 because notice they're already the same. I would check 5 because that's what's different. So on 5, we've got 2.5 times 5 plus 10. So 2.5 times 5, that's going to be 5, 10, 1250 plus 10, that's 22.5. So this one is incorrect, which means this is our answer. So that concludes our review. You've had a lot of practice with rational numbers over the past couple of weeks. Please take time and go back and review this test review again, as well as the other things we've done, including that quiz that you did a couple Fridays ago. You will be able to use the calculator on your test. Please make sure that you practice this review both by hand and with plugging into the calculator. Happy studying!